playing as the Pistons have been, having several consecutive losses, and they're coming in a little bit hungry? How much more focused do you guys have to be on what you need to do and play to your strengths?
Yeah, I mean, we're not focused on our opponent's, immediate situation from a results basis. We're focused on our opponent, their execution, and what we need to do, to win the game and to execute. We had a very tough game with them up in Detroit, and we've got to be prepared for that again.
Quin, a lot of the things defensively, there's been a lot of improvement over the last few games. What have you seen that you feel that you can bring into the night's game, knowing that you offensively don't really have any problems?
Well, we don't. I wish it were that easy that we don't have. As a coach, you always find problems, right, Brian? I'm not ready to say that we've, done something. We want to get better, and the key with that is consistency. So, to the extent there's a few things that we've continued, to emphasize and work on and talk about and watch on tape. Our transition defense is huge. And then the other thing is the glass and getting bodies on people, particularly when most games we're giving up some size in there, and so our level of focus in those two situations, and people trying to keep people off the rim, building a wall, taking charges, doing all those things. I think that's for us where improvement's going to come, and I don't know when the results reflect that. I think they do periodically to a certain degree, but we've just got to stay the course with those things.
Coach, of course, you guys have been on the road a lot recently, 2 games in Toronto, then Cleveland, back home now, back on your home court. What are you expecting to see from your team that has your message or philosophy shifted with the guys with Clint and DeAndre being back in the lineup after missing a game or so?
Well, we were without DeAndre for a little while. It's obviously good to have Clint back. I think the message is consistent, regardless of who's suited up and who's ready to play, and how much they can play or how much they do play. And that's, we want to share the ball, execute offensively, space, get back, and play defense collectively. And that's whether we're at home or on the road or whoever's on the floor. That's part of consistency is doing things over and over and building an identity. That's what you want.
Hey, Coach, kind of piggyback off that question, do you have any status or on the whereabouts of AJ Griffin and his role moving forward with the team?
Yeah, AJ's out right now for personal reasons, and I'll leave it at that.
Coach, it's Jalen's birthday today. It's been about the same amount of time without him that you had him at the beginning of the year. What have you seen from him while he's been out, being around the guys, being at practice? What have you seen from him as he's gone through this process?
You waited till his birthday to ask that question. You could ask it a few days ago too. He's part of Jalen's development this year has been his work ethic and his focus. He was one of the guys that this summer was just really locked in on a lot of different aspects of his game. In the weight room, taking care of his body, getting shots, doing different things from a playmaking standpoint. He's really worked hard, and not surprisingly, he's continued to do that during this stretch where he hasn't been able to play. And obviously, he's a big part of what we do, and it's not hard to look at some of the results when he's been out to see his importance, and it'll be good to have him back and when he comes back, and hopefully that'll be soon.
Coach, Jalen's one of the several cats that you've had to deal with the injury bug with recently. What has been most encouraging about the performances of the likes of Garrison Matthews, Bruno Fernando, guys that have had to step up in these sorts of moments?
That in a kind of idyllic situation, that's what happens when, whether it's a singular game, over the course of a couple games, in this case longer, But that's what guys work toward, and that's why they work, and that's why they pay attention in the scouting report, like lock in on a timeout, because there's those longer periods where it's a game, but then it could also be foul trouble in a given game. It could be a couple possessions. You know, I've mentioned to Garrison a while ago, there was a game where he played a minute 30, and it was a really good minute 30, and then there was 5 minutes, and then you know, more recently he's played more, and he's played real well, and then he's not played as well at a given time, just because that's the game. You know, whether it's a shorter stretch and the thing I've been pleased with him is just his level of consistency mentally and his focus. He's a competitor. He's trying to play the right way. Bruno, the other night, it's not surprising. You know, you think back a week or so ago, he was, you know, asking to go down to the Skyhawks and play in College Park, and you know, that's what you want. Trent's always been, you know, been ready to go. You know, the last time we played these guys up in Detroit, you know, he played more significant minutes, and you know, needless to say, you don't take Patty Mills for granted every time he's called on the Philadelphia game. You look back and just his energy and competitiveness, and you know, Wes as well. So, you know, when we're healthy, those guys' roles are obviously different. But when we're without Jalen, Hunt, Clint, and Bogey, we need everybody, and that's those guys being focused. You know, there's not just an appreciation from the coaching staff, but I think that's something that, you know, their teammates respect as well.
Quinn, I know these guys aren't exactly going gangbusters right now, but what are the things that they do well, maybe, that concerns you when you come into this matchup?
You know, they play hard, and they play, you know, they play a deep rotation, and you know, they've you know, Thompson, for example, his offensive rebounding. There's certain things that they do, you know, that have been challenging for us. That being one of them. You know, transition with their size and their athleticism. You know, attacking the rim in transition. You know, so there's a lot of things that they do that, you know, that we have to be prepared to handle. They don't give up many threes. You know, and that's something that we felt like is important for our group. So we've got to work to get threes. Different coverages that you're going to see, the way they're guarding certain things, and that's always for our team right now. The ability to implement a game plan, you know, night to night against the team that shows different looks and has different strengths, and trying to exploit different things is always important for us. Yep.
Some of the players that you've missed over the last few weeks, Jalen, Mo, Clint for a game, DeAndre, are your bigger players. When they're not there and they're getting their minutes replaced by smaller players, how has that changed your approach to games?
You mean 6'2" versus 6'10", and 6'4" versus 6'9"? I mentioned a couple of those things, and I think it's true whether we're big or small. You know, our focus on the glass. You know, and I think it's one of the things some of the guys that, you know, they know that they're not necessarily going to be able to jump with somebody, so even more important for them, you know, to find a man and block out, you know, in transition situations, just your ability to spread out and cover space and prevent penetration. So that's where, you know, you're always hopeful and seeing a silver lining on injuries, that your team can use those things to try to improve. You know, when you're challenged like that, sometimes, you know, that opportunity is, you know, the mother of invention, right? So not that we're reinventing the wheel, but we are trying to become more consistent. And then there's times where, you know, it's hard. It's just hard when your, you know, size can matter, but hopefully, you know, so can quickness and competitiveness and being scrappy and, you know, all those things that we want.
Last one.
Coach, you mentioned earlier kind of how the defense is trending upwards and the improvement in there, but
Is it, by the way? You guys keep saying that. Am I saying that? You repeating what I said? All right.
But I was going to say, you still are averaging, or still giving up a lot of points.
Mhm.
I know it's with the scheme, the offense, or like that. Do you guys go in every game kind of with a benchmark, like we know if we allow less than this points, we're good to go, chances are we'll win, or is there like a goal with
There,
the game?
you know, that's hard because you know, pace often dictates. You know, points are a little bit deceiving as opposed to efficiency, right? Which is what you're saying. I think the goals for us are more process oriented. You know, some of the things I mentioned, and a lot of times for us, tape is really important as a way to measure what we're doing, as opposed to necessarily, you know, you eventually you hope that those things all line up, you know, and the results follow. You know, some consistency on the habits and some focus and emphasis and placing importance on those things. I think that's, you know, our guys just continuing to understand that this is, you know, what's going to help you win games. You know, you're not going to be able to outscore something, and we're there. As far as like nobody's, you know, is disillusioned about that, but you know, admittedly, particularly of late with, you know, some guys out, you are more challenged, and just everybody's got to give. I mean, it's just more, just do more, you know, harder, smarter, longer, more, and sometimes it comes down to that. And when I say more of the things that can provide success for us.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.